Diaries, because I've started a new countdown, Saturday, May 16th, and I am joined here, as we have been every Saturday for the last 6 weeks, by the wonderful Ethan Barclay Inu from Outlaw. And yes, last pajama party, so I decided to kick it up, Ethan. I put the lippy on.
I love it.
Just
I
what?
actually am vaguely wearing pajamas. I went to the gym, I came home, I ate a pastry. That's right. I showered and I came to join you.
Carbs?
Oh, so
Stop
many.
it.
I have to say, I'm not one of those people. I will never swear off carbs. That's insanity. I think I die without them.
Oh, no, no. Hey, look, you're talking to the woman who's just scoffed down some banana bread before she came on here. Because I think it was either last week, or you could hear my stomach rumbling through the whole thing. So, yeah. So there you go.
Brutal.
So, yes. Now, how has your week been? I was just saying to him just before we started, caught yesterday. You looked fabulous, by the way. The home haircuts. Or have we actually been to a barber now?
No, you know what? I think I might have broken up with my barber unintentionally from this quarantine because I'm really enjoying the haircut. And, I do it myself with one mirror and a lot of hope. Um, I will tell you, though, everyone, I have scheduled. You might notice that I look slightly surprised on one side of my face and not as surprised on the other. I gave one really good attempt at plucking my eyebrows, and I'm never doing that again.
Oh,
So I will
yeah.
be going back to my eyebrow waxer.
Yeah, I was just going to say overplucking is never a good thing, my darling. Never ever.
No, it never works. So I have an appointment with her, but I think I'm done with the barber. No, this is still the quarantine cut.
No, it's looking good. It's looking good. And why I mentioned that is, of course, you have been doing a second episode, I think it was yesterday. You have been doing
Yes.
a Starflanket knit along. So if anybody is knitting Starflanket or considering knitting Starflanket, you
Yeah.
might want to pop over to the Outlaw Year Lair and check out the first couple of videos because it's brilliant. I really like the fact that you're sort of moving ahead with the project. So
Thank
as
you.
people are starting to work on it, that if they encounter any little quirks in the pattern or something they're not sure about, you're able to work them through it. And I think that that's really, really important. I found that with Rambler. I think, yeah, it's such a good
Mhm.
idea, and it's starting to look really good. So why don't you start talking about your Starflanket, and I'm going to get the link up for everybody here.
Okay, so I am going to work 3 more stitches so that I'm past the stitch markers. And then we're going to have an obnoxiously long
Just let me finish this row, darling.
Never. It's one ongoing row forever. It's a circular blanket. It's just one giant, everyone, spoiler alert, it's one giant row. Because circular knitting is actually a helix, not stacked rows. What? I know, mind blowing. So I started on April 28th, in case anyone's following along from home and has a handy calendar. Oh God, it's gotten awfully large already. Um, and I started working on my Starflanket. So I am using our blues kit.
Oh
My
wow! And gosh, isn't the nostalgia? It's nostalgia, isn't it? The red.
Yeah, nostalgia's the red, contrasting with the wreath. I thought it just really, and I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of aiming, bear with me at home, for a little bit of a New Zealand flag colors effect for
I
my
was just going
personal
to
one.
say, I feel patriotic. It looks
Yeah,
very patriotic.
I was really aiming for it, and I think I got pretty close. I'm pretty pleased with the effect. So I went with the Fog and Merlin to make my star, which I really love the effect of it. It's so graphic and effective in the center there. It has that slight little pinwheel from the center because of how you join each section. Now, the section here that I finished last week, how do I, ooh, wrong direction. There we go. Is the stripe section, of course. So, you work all of the stars, then you seam the last one together with the top one, and we begin to work the stripe section. So you work all the way through, working decreases in one section and increases in another, and it really evens out. So if you had an error picking up or anything, don't worry. The pattern kind of self-corrects as you build
Mm.
row upon row upon row because there's so many repeats. So don't get all worried about it not precisely matching up. It's big enough you can't tell.
Yeah, yeah.
Then
Great
I am
advice.
now into the brioche, and I cover this pretty extensively over 10 minutes yesterday. There are two options for this shawl. You can either work this section here in brioche, which I have done, to Color Brioche, which is that fully reversible style of ribbing. We've had some chats about it. I am using the Nancy Marchant yarn over method, if you will, which Stephen West employs in most of his patterns. And I'm intentionally doing this in two pass to Color Brioche so that as you're working, it builds a slightly fluffier fabric. So if you were to do this in two-handed or single pass brioche or double Dutch brioche, depending on how you like to call it, it makes a fabric that is a little bit flatter this way. It's not as dimensional because you do create a little bit more tension with the right side fabric color, the blue here in this case, than you do with the gray. But I really, really love this pattern. It is super relaxing. And if you're not comfortable with brioche, but you are looking for great TV knitting, you can replace the brioche with garter stitch. And it's built into the pattern to do that.
Great. So in garter stitch, are you doing then alternate rows, like stripy rows?
Alternate rows striping, yep, with the same angular decreases. So it gives the same visual effect and it builds the same type of rows. And as you can see, I'm still working it on that smaller circular needle.
Yeah.
And what that allows me to do is really just shove it around. And I am in the second to last repeat of the brioche right now. So I'm about to go on to the short rows, which are incredibly easy. I don't want anyone at home to be intimidated. There's no wrap and turns. There's no German method. There's no Japanese shadow wrap. He does this totally different thing with double yarn overs instead to close them, which Stephen is really fond. If you're not a Stephen West pattern knitter, Stephen is really fond of short rows, but he is really not fond of hard work for his knitters. So what he does is he always finds a solution that makes it simpler. So if you're working a short row in a Stephen West pattern, you're not most likely going to be doing a wrap and turn. You're not most likely going to be doing any of those other methods I just said. And keep in mind, there are as many methods for doing short rows as there are days in the week. But his methods are what I would call and what he calls shortcut rows, because you do a short row and then when you're closing the gap, you're doing an easier method. Sometimes it's different styles of knit two togethers or slips of knit. Sometimes it's yarn overs, but he never makes you work harder than you need to get a fantastic effect.
Well, often his short row is literally knit so many, turn around and go back the other way.
Exactly.
It's it couldn't be simpler than that. And I like the idea. And when you were saying the garter stitch too, for people that doing that, so it'll be a 2 and 2 round, I'm assuming. So 2 rounds of one color, 2 rounds of another color to get that striping, or is it doing them?
So yes, as you're working through it. And the other great thing, just to remind people, if you are a little bit gun shy on such a big project in sheer size, the Starflake shawl is an excellent option because it uses all of the same techniques, all of the same bits and pieces. Hello, I've already made one. We have kits for them. You can order the yarn from Marie too, don't worry. Get in on it because it's a small project that has a huge effect. It's so efficient and so, so beautiful. I love my Starflake. I have worn it to everyone's favorite social outing during lockdown, the grocery store, on several occasions. And I'm assuming the expressions behind people's masks were delight and awe. But as we all know, you can't really tell. So you hope for the best.
Exactly, and it is such a wonderful, and actually we have just this morning, just before we came to air, our order arrived and it's all been uploaded. So if people are picking up some bits and pieces from us this week and are wanting to also get some Outlaw yarns in there, all the baby bandit is there, all the little bandit is there. I know people have been waiting for little bandit deering, so that's all there now. And I think all the Bohemia Sport, we've still managed to get all of that, because I know that I've got a sneaking suspicion, Deb, we might have cleaned you out of a couple of colours, or close to.
Pretty close, yes.
Yeah, pretty close. So so that's nice and stocked. So if you're wanting to get stocked up for the Starflanket or Starflake, you can do it. So it's just, I love that color combination. Like for me, those colors are really comforting. They're nostalgic. They're patriotic. They're also very nautical. I mean, for me, living by the ocean, I look at those and they just feel right, don't they? They really.
As you know, it's like I am not a big believer unlike many other people in the knitting industry, of pushing people outside of their color comfort zone. And I think personally, I have a very expansive color comfort zone. It's 4 shades of oatmeal, blue and red and pink. Come at me, people of the internet. I don't really do yellow unless it's neon somehow, which is probably a little insane. But you gotta be a little.
It's because neon looks so good with oatmeal, so that's why you actually give it.
It does, and I am oatmeal colored, so I mean, it's really essential to offset the oatmeal in my skin with something. So, you know, I really like, this is definitely straight down the middle of the Ethan color comfort zone. You know, I have pretty much a full garment in almost all of these colors already. So, but
this is where you and I differ greatly, is the fact, see, I'm the complete opposite. I mean, he says she who's wearing soft, sort of blushy, pastely, fleshy tones today. I'm the complete opposite when it comes to colour. So Ethan is, yeah, he's right. I mean, like, you literally have a sweater that's all those 4 colours, you know, yeah. Whereas I am the complete opposite. I go over the entire colour spectrum. Like, I have stuff in my wardrobe pretty much within every colour.
It's very impressive.
Well, I will give anything a go. I'm not afraid. And every now and then there'll be something that I think, yeah. Stuff it. I'll just keep going. And actually, this is one of them. So this is what's on my needles today. So this is the cowl. So I finished the Rambler, and I can't even show you the Rambler finish because it's in at work already, sitting on a mannequin. Sorry.
Oh,
I know. It looks fabulous, by the way.
I'm sure it does.
And actually, I'll tell you what, I'll talk about this quickly. What I did do is I just gave it a block and a soften, and I use fabric softener. Worked beautifully, but it just, all that colour work just settled down. Yeah, it's great. It looks really, really good. Super happy with it. But this is the cowl. It looks better on screen when I hold it up, as opposed to when I'm working on it on close. So it is.
It looks great.
Yeah,
the leftover Noro.
No, well, no, it's actually a Noro knockoff. I know, it's a Noro knockoff, and it's but it is wool silk.
Wait, are you knitting with a silk blend?
I know. Fancy that.
That doesn't sound right.
I'm the crows. Oh dear. Hey, look, at least I'm predictable. And I love this because when I bought this, to me, this just screamed Vincent van Gogh. I mean, those colours right in his colour.
Oh, it really does. That's such
doesn't
a
it?
situation. Yeah.
Yeah. And anywho, so, and I also had, I'm going to tell you what it was. Have I got the ball band for it still? No, it's sitting in another bag. And then it's a Cascade yarn, I can tell you that.
Okay.
And then, oh, there it is. No, that's the ball band for it there. Melilla. So that's what that is. And then I bought this, which is this bright lime citrus to go with it. And it's been sitting in my, actually in a little baggie together since I bought it 3 years ago. And I thought, right, I'm determined to do it. So when I started at the bottom, and I was going to do equal sized rows, 4 and 4. And then I decided that was just a little bit too much of that.
Too much green. Yeah.
So I pulled it back, and then I've gone 4 and 2. And I'm definitely happier with the 4 and 2 because it's letting the Melilla shine through. Because what I wanted was to be able to see those waves of the patterning quite well. Now, it does not go with what I'm wearing today, but I wore the other day a top that had black, and it was a bright sort of blue, and that would actually look fantastic with it. So it's I think it's looking a little bit kind of crunchy now, but once it blocks, I think it's gonna.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. Now, is that the original or is that an actual pattern?
Yeah, no, this is the Ever After cowl.
After cowl.
Yeah, so this is my my cowl, and it's just, and I've actually upped the needle size on this, so it's a I'm using a 5.5 millimeter needle and 156 stitches cast on. I think in the pattern actually in the pattern it might be slightly more actually because I use a smaller needle, but I've done 156 because by this time the stretch is out. I just wanted it slightly longer. For anyone that does knit this, all you need to do is have a multiple of 12. So it's a multiple of 12. So I've kept it quite simple. So as long as it's a multiple of 12, you're good to go. And it's really good
calculators, or call your local bakers.
Exactly. So I'm actually really looking forward to, I should actually, with any luck, go get this completed today, because I now have my oatmeal yarn. I have all of that ready, and I am going to cast on my gold wing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I'd left the yarn inside, which is such a pity. But anyway, I'm going to cast on my gold wing, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I see a couple of people in the speakeasy have already started theirs, and they look amazing.
That is so cool.
I'm so excited about that. Really, really amazing. Now, I'm just going to have a quick look at the questions to see if there's any questions that cropped up. And I have to say, Delene, I hope you're watching this with the subtitles and or at least earbuds in, because I could imagine if you're in a ward, because I know that you are not at home right now, I would hate to think what the people around you will be going, what is that woman watching? Or are you watching with the subtitles and wetting your pants laughing, and then they'll be wondering, what on earth is that woman watching?
First of all, the subtitles love this American accent.
Yeah, they not so much for me, but that's all right. I like to be here to entertain, so there you go. So for those who also caught up with everything on Thursday, of course, I only did a very, very short video on Thursday because we reopened our retail store. Yay, yeah, 10 till 2. We're just doing 10 till 2s at the moment, only Monday through Friday. We just need to get a feel of where things are at. Yeah, and it's full on. It was the first couple of days have been really full on, but a good full on. And you guys too are also open, but not open, but you're actually going to be more accessible for people now too, for advice and information.
Exactly. So starting this coming week on Thursday, you are going to be able to drop in or place your orders online for pickup from us. It's got to be one person at a time. If you've seen our beautiful fit out done by our friends at Frontal Lobe, it does have a lot of surfaces that are a little challenging for us to sterilize because it's all made out of recycled pallets. Hello. So we have to do some minor adjustments in order.
I wish they were minor. Yeah.
That's the understatement of the century. We have to make some adjustments before we can have the doors fully open for everyone, but it does mean that you can come in. We can stand at a reasonable distance and hold up the yarn for you to see live in person if you've been missing out on that. We will have to keep the groping of both the yarn and the staff to a minimum for once.
Now, is this going to be like at the zoo? Don't put your fingers between the bars.
Yes, but you are welcome to feed the animals. I do like pastries from the Great Pastry Shop. I will not say no to a tart. There will most likely be 2 of us there, so if you bring one, you might get a very dirty look from half of the...
No, tarts for tarts. That works.
Yeah, but we will be available then. Also, we will still be doing, for anyone who is not local to us directly here in Christchurch who needs some help, you can always Zoom us on Thursday as well from 12 till 2, same time, same bat channel, same bat place. If anyone's old enough to get that reference, you're welcome. The other fun thing will be we're going to experiment with some evening hours of a Friday for everybody who is back at work but still salivating to get some yarning in for the weekend. So you'll be able to see us on Fridays from 4 till 6. And last but not least, for our weekend knitting warriors, we are there on Saturday from 12 till 2 as well. So we'll make sure everything's clearly marked. You don't need to worry about anything. Come in and see us. We'll have hand sanitizer available. Don't put it on your face. I'm only saying this because I saw a hilarious video of someone sanitizing on the internet yesterday, and I was like, I don't think that's the memo, but okay.
I saw a fantastic meme last night, and it said, I've absorbed so much hand sanitizer, I feel like when I go to the toilet, I'm disinfecting the bowl.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And the other great thing is you will be able to see, if you come in, many of my quarantine knits finished, because so here's my big announcement from post lockdown situation, I have gone from 9 projects on the needles to 2.
Oh, you've right. Okay, so we finished extra texture. We finished the Alaska sweater.
Yeah, finished the extra texture, the Alaska sweater, 2 hats that were lingering. I finished a mystery test knit that all of you will be able to
That's
see
right,
sometime
yes.
in September when that happens. And, you know, you'll see it. Don't worry. Everyone will be talking about it. It's going to be one of those.
Such a cynic for such a young man. Anyway, keep going. Do more.
Well, you know. I finished one of my own designs that I'm going to be knitting a second. So just for all of you out there, I'm a little bit neurotic. So when I make a design, understatement of the century, when I make a design, it normally has 1,001 details in it where you're like, I don't know if that's necessary. They're all necessary before you ask me that. So I have to make a second one of it, and I'm going to do it in some Bohemia worsted, most likely. But it is, brace yourselves, everyone, a provisionally knit, fully seamed, double knit, shawl collared cardigan.
Of course it is.
So brace yourselves for impact if you decide to cast. Oh, and it has a saddle shoulder, so you know there's nothing going on with it. Now you look at it and you're like, oh, of course. But it's really fun because you cast on all of the pieces provisionally, you knit them flat, you seam them together, and then you go back and undo all of the provisional cast-ons, and you pick up with a smaller needle and you knit all the ribbing downwards on the body and on the sleeves. And then you finish it with a sew and bind off. And for anyone who's watching from home, I stole the method from Japanese knitters. I did not come up with this on my own. But what it enables people to do is you get this really beautiful fit. And I know that this is crazier than I usually am, but I just feel like ribbing knit downwards looks better than ribbing knit bottom up in some cases.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's just one of those little things to me.
Yeah, it is. There is definitely one of the things, because I think I've talked about this a little bit with some people because we've obviously had a lot of out of stocks. I won't lie, there are some pages that you go to and you go and there's just nothing there. So I've had a lot of people contact me, particularly because they've gotten to the sleeves of their project and they're like, we've run out, you don't have any more, what do I do? And particularly if they've only just completed one sleeve or only completed part of sleeve, I've actually had them unraveling that sleeve.
Yeah.
And if it's from the top down, and there I've just sort of had them unraveling and doing contrast sleeve cuffs. And and it's great. And for some of them actually doing them so because they want it as little as possible, then getting them to leave live stitches and line them up and then sort of go down I can totally get that. And then for those that are doing it the other way around, so of course the hard part with that is if you're going from sleeve bottom up, the last thing you want a little contrast patch sitting up here on your shoulder. So that's when your method works beautifully because then that's when you can sort of say, right, well, whatever your sleeve cuff is, whether it's ribbed or what have you, if it's ribbed, just do a provisional cast on, knit the rest of it, and then pick your cast on up and provisionally knit back with your contrast color.
And the nice part about it as well, and this is a really strange thing, I know that seaming isn't necessarily taught as a skill the same way that other aspects of knitting are, but seaming ribbing is actually much more challenging usually than seaming stockinette because usually, and here's a fun one for you, you can be off by up to 6 rows averagely over, 8 centimeters or so of ribbing compared with your stockinette. Stockinette is normally much more even. Ribbing tends to have a lot more variance in it for people for a list of complicating factors. So if you come back and you knit pieces in the round, I'm not showing you my wrist. If you knit pieces, does anyone else struggle with the camera? If you knit pieces in the round coming down this way, it means that you don't have to seam that portion as well because you've already seamed up the bottom of the sleeve And so you're picking up the stitches in the round and knitting them downwards. And it adds some structural stability to the end of the garment as well. And to me, it just makes a really beautiful finish. And here's a fun fact. It gives you somewhere to weave all your ends in.
Ah, it does too.
This is the secret of seams. Seams mean that you never need to look for somewhere to tuck your ends. You just weave them through the seam after you've seamed it up and then trim them before you block it the second time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, as we both know, I'm the crazy seaming person, so.
I know I'm very fond of a well-executed mattress stitch. It does make me very happy. Hey, now look, one of the things I was doing just before we came on air is I had a quick glance over to the Ravelry to see in the what's hot right now, and this caught my eye. Have you seen this yet?
Oh no, that's beautiful,
isn't it? It's called Bittercrest by Faye Kennington, and she's gone and done it in the 5-ply Malabrigo, which is Arroyo. There you go, Arroyo. Thank you. But I'm just going to hold that there for a second. Now, but the thing is, which they've had is 5-ply, but the gauge is 26 stitches to 25 rows. Well, hello, little bandit people.
Yeah.
And look at those colours. So it's sort of it's got 4 contrast colours in there. And I'm sorry, Curiosity, Adventure, Tomfoolery, and Intrepid, just saying.
Completely. That would sing out in that one.
And I mean, that is totally the Ethan colour palette, is it not?
That is actually completely the Ethan color palette.
I thought you would say that. Yes.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you. So what she is saying here is, it's worked on a 3.25 millimeter and 3.5 millimeter needle, a 26 stitch tension. Now she's actually doing a knit along. As our girl. It's called the Flora and Fauna Knit Along. Begins May 21st. And if you buy any pattern in her collection until the 28th of May, there is 20% off. It's part poncho, part pullover, all things pretty, flattering ombre neckline with an elaborate, large floral motif around the yoke. Yes, that would be true. And it goes all the way up.
Plants alive, so that's how I get my flowers.
All the way up to 146 centimeters, so it's a good size. And yes, and it's done with 20% positive ease. It says on the fair-headed model, I've only printed out the dark-haired model, which is worn with doesn't say. So I think it's an absolute cracker.
I think that's stunning, personally.
Yeah, that really did catch my eye this morning, and particularly too because that's where Little Bandit's so great. When you've got that level of colour work, you do want something that is a little bit grippy. And having just done the Rambler, and I'm about to get it underway in Goldwing, that grippiness, I have to say, once blocked, it makes such a huge difference to the overall garment.
Oh, completely.
And because for those that haven't joined before, belching away. I had Noro Silk Garden as a centerpiece, which is a single roving yarn. But then I had Southland Sport, Little Bandit, and Cove 4-ply, which were all yarns pretty much the same weight, and they were all twofold construction, and none of them, they were all grippier yarns, like they weren't very, very smooth yarns. So they kind of have this natural Velcro effect. So when you're actually doing stranded colour work, it means that they sort of kind of all grab hold of each other, a bit like a chain of people, interlinking arm chains.
Good way of missing it.
Yeah. And when I blocked it, and as I said, it's sitting on a mannequin at work. When I blocked it, it just smoothed out beautifully. It really did. And it helps, I think, with your tensioning. It really does help with your tensioning, because when what your experience, I know, has certainly been with this, when you're playing around with different yarns with different textures, it really does affect that tensioning quite a bit, I think.
It does. So I am well known for not being a large user of superwash yarns. I think everyone in this industry has a soapbox that they stand and shout on, and mine has always been natural yarns, commercially dyed. It's my thing. I'm fine with who I am. I make really big projects, usually that require high contrast. I mean, I've never knit something small. I was talking to someone last evening and I was looking at I have a shelf that has like a meter by meter square that's just full of all of my knits. And I don't think you could describe any of them as like regular projects. I'm a little bit of a crazy person. But the thing about it is, when you're making those big, large pieces like what you're talking about, and it's important to remember here, Noro is a commercially dyed yarn as well, even though they have that beautiful effect on it. The thing about those is a lot of those natural yarns that are commercially dyed, the moment that you block them, they fluff ever so slightly and they fill the gap. So if you're one of those knitters who finds when you're doing color work, especially if you're doing really dense color work, let's say for a mitten or a sock, I mean, God bless all of you who make color work socks. I will never do it. Don't come around these parts looking for that. It's not going to happen. But for all of you who do dense color work like that on those Scandinavian style mittens and other things like that, you'll notice a lot of the time that when you're first knitting it, there are little gaps between stitches, especially at those really dense gauges. And what happens when you're using a superwash yarn is there is nothing that fluffs up to fill that gap. So you just end up with those little spaces. And machine wash and superwash are totally different treatments. Marie can speak to this better than I can. I just know what I like and don't like. And for me, what I really find is the more natural yarns are a lot more forgiving to a lot of different knitters, because you can actually physically, if you've made a float too tight with an all natural yarn, when you're blocking it and pressing it flat into that blocking position, the actual float will stretch. And so then the stitch that you see visually, not the float behind it, will settle back into the correct shape and really complement the overall patterning. Plus, when you're dealing with those natural yarns, if you have made something and it has come out a little more body skimming than you were intending, you can, to quote a friend of mine, block that out. Just stretch it. Nothing bad is going to happen. It will assume the final shape that you give it. You can pin it out with T-pins and blocking wires. You don't need to buy blocking wires. You can make your own. There's a tutorial somewhere on the internet for everything. You'll find it. And, it gives you that freedom and flexibility to really go back and make sure that you're getting everything perfect. Blocking is magic, and blocking on natural yarns is the most incredible experience.
So, I mean, I think I mentioned with the Rambler. So with the Rambler, it was a sweater that I was knitting. And in fact, it was a sweater from a shape perspective that wasn't too dissimilar to this. Mm-hmm. Very basic shape. And I'm just not a big sweater wearer. So I decided that I had a bit of an epiphany moment once I'd gotten to underneath the arms. And I always add a little bit of A-line shaping in a sweater anyway, because I am a very exaggerated triangle. The base, let's put it this way, the wide load pilot car needs to come along ahead for me because, I'm aware of this. So I put a little bit of shaping in there, and then I actually had the big epiphany moment when I started my shaping, and I thought, actually, I'm going to turn this into a tunic, because tunics I wear loads of tunics.
You do wear
a tunic now that I'm wearing, so I just love them. So that's what I did. But then when I was trying it on, once I was getting down to check for the length of my tunic, I just found that it was a little bit grippy under the girls in a place that I didn't want it to grip, and I thought, you know what, that shit's going to block straight out. And it did. You just lay it out, kept all the colour work and everything actually quite neutral, but then underneath, it's the gloriousness with it. I could actually give it a bit of a stretch in that sort of 20 centimetre zone that I was a bit concerned about, give it a decent stretch, pin that out, and then just pull the rest of it out. So I only actually aggressively blocked a very small section and had that pin. The rest of it, I didn't actually pin at all. I just pulled it out, laid it out, had it sitting there so it would relax as it dried, and it honestly, it fits beautifully. Really thrilled, tried it on, doesn't grip where I want it gripping. It's great, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, and it is, I think, and you mentioned before, so I did a diary about this a couple of weeks ago, between the difference between superwash and machine wash treated yarns. Okay. So Little Bandit and Bandit are really good examples of machine wash treated yarns. So those are yarns that have been manufactured and dyed, and then a treatment has been applied to the yarn after they've been dyed. think of it a little bit like putting on a thin layer of varnish or hairspray, actually, to keep your hair in place. This has been applied to the yarn to help keep all those little fibres in place, so it can go into a washing machine on a cool wool wash or very gentle cycle, and it will come out looking just fine. Superwash treated yarns is a treatment that is actually done to the fibre before it is spun. So the fibre itself goes from, if you've ever seen wool as it comes off a sheep, it kind of looks all fluffy and crinkly and glorious. Well, then it goes through that treatment, and then when it comes back, it looks actually more like cotton wool, like the long sort of...
It does.
Yeah, slivers of cotton wool, and then that is then spun. So what that gives you is a really beautiful, smooth yarn, which is really wonderful, and it has actually a lot of natural drape, but you've gotten rid of that complete Velcro effect. And that effect, particularly in colour work, is actually something you don't want to lose. It's actually really, really valuable for the final project. So if you're actually looking at doing projects like Goldwing, like Bittercress, and you're looking at your yarn selection, I would definitely, look at the grippiness of the yarn. So if you're even planning to use some non-commercially dyed yarn, there are plenty of dyes out there that actually work with natural yarns that aren't shrink treated, that are amazing. So you may want to hunt some of those out for your projects, or things like this, which are Noro, or this Malila, which are single roving, but they've got a bit of grip and texture to them, because you need something to grasp
completely. I mean, so there's a question about how do I knit without looking. Practice. The way I knit also helps. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. So I do a kind of hybrid method. Now, I can knit both English and continental, which is not necessarily normal, and I find them about equally quick. Although I normally knit with this sort of half and half thing. So what I do is I tension the yarn continental, but on my right hand, like I'm going to throw. And please note, I have giant monster hands. For anyone who hasn't met me in person, they are obnoxiously big, because I am actually a fairly large human being. So it's really easy for me. And what I do is I keep it wrapped around my index finger. And as I reach for the next stitch, I literally just flick my finger forward around the needle. And I'm actually doing brioche without looking at the moment, which is, that took a little bit of practice to really get there.
Yeah.
But it's all muscle memory with the knitting. So especially if you want to really get good at knitting without looking, a weird trick is to watch something with subtitles. So if you watch something that you can't understand, where you have to actually stare at the screen, it forces you to do it. I would recommend practicing with some stockinette in the round, as that's the easiest thing to not mess up on. And do it on a project where you're prepared to fix some dropped stitches. Because y'all are going to drop some stitches when you first get going.
Yeah, for mine, I mean, I'm having to look a little bit at the minute, because I'm working on a round. I've just done my pattern round, and of course I've got a whole heap of yarn overs, and trying to pick them up sometimes without looking is a bit of an issue. But that's when you've got loads and loads of stockinette, it's the easiest thing in the world to do. Yeah, and you're right, actually getting distracted on other things is, I always had projects. For me, TV knitting is something that qualifies as something that I don't actually have to look at doing. I can be... but definitely practice. Now, Nikki here is asking, where do you buy your Noro from? I bought mine from Nanette from Yarns. That's yarn with a Z at the end, .co.nz. That's where I purchased mine from. Who else does it? I've only ever bought it from Nanette, so I don't know.
I haven't bought a ball of Noro in...
You've probably bought one in New Zealand, have you?
No, well, I haven't bought one in like 6 years.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually weirdly into the silk garden for house socks.
I can see that.
I find it, it's really fantastic just to wear around the house. And they have that one color that's all the neutrals together. Yeah, that's right. I buy the least Noro. The one that is not really...
The only man that I know that can make Noro boring.
It's a gift.
And for someone who's not boring, I just find your colour reticence amazing. It's not reticence, but it's just your...
I'm
You
not as
don't know.
adventurous as color wise as other people. That is for sure.
Mind
Yeah,
you saying that though, your Westfields Wanderer, I was blown away because for you, that was actually, you pushed that boat out.
I really did. The absinthe
Yeah.
green is a big stretch for me.
Yeah.
I would normally never combine pink and green in one project, but I will say when you have Deb on hand to help you put colors together, you do get to really unexpected combinations that work well, much better. And I am a big believer that some people are better at seeing color than others
Oh.
and have a much better sense of it. And Deb is really, really good at taking colors and building a range inside of a project or inside of a product range that where every color harmonizes together,
Yeah.
even in unexpected ways. And I mean, with the Westfjord Wanderer, I used both pinks from the line, both of the brighter pinks, Tiffin and Trinket and Absinthe, all at once.
Mm.
So for me, that's quite an eye-searing
Well,
combination.
particularly the absinthe. I mean, Tiffin and Trinket are well within your
Yeah,
wheelhouse. But absinthe was definitely playing outside of your comfort zone for sure.
no, it was an adventure. I have actually been considering, and you might bite your own tongue off, so be careful when I say this next thing. I have actually been considering knitting with marigold, which is
Oh,
orange.
yes,
And
it is. It's lovely orange.
I never, and I mean never, you can look through any project I've ever made on Ravelry, which is about a tenth of the projects I've actually made. I am the worst Ravelry user known to mankind. For putting up projects, I can search for anything on Ravelry. If you ever need help, I can find anything in 4 seconds flat. But I I'm considering knitting with orange for the first time. So
Well, but that surprises me in a way too, because you love blues so much, and blue
I
and orange are
do.
absolute contrasts. And I mean, blue and orange are really happy friends.
Yeah, it's a classic combo for sure.
Mm. So there you go. Ah, there we go. A few people have popped up another option for Norris, so that's quite good. I mean, I've got,
There we go.
I've got a lot of stash at work at the moment, and I went back to work on Thursday. I got reunited with my work stash, which was nice because I have these huge big bowls next in my workstation in the office, and one of these days I will do a diaries set up so you can see the stash in the background. And I have a lot of Noro there, so it was really nice to get reunited with my babies because I miss them. Because I have my stash at home tends to be, I have a lot of historic stuff and I have quirkier stuff here, but I have a lot of color stories at home, or I have a lot of the yarns which are single one-off. So when I go out and buy, so I buy yarn generally for one of three reasons. I will buy specifically for a project. So I have a project in mind, I've researched it, I've gone out to find a yarn for it, whether it be at a market or what have you, and I'll purchase specifically for the project. I'll be souvenir purchasing, so I'll be traveling somewhere and I will be buying it as a souvenir, or I will be buying it strictly as for the library, as I like to call it, my yarn library at work, which is purely for reference purposes. And yes, and before you say why on earth would I be buying yarn for reference purposes, look, Deb will tell you I love nothing better than sitting around with wine, literally dissecting yarn.
We have never done this.
No.
That's true. It has never happened, everyone. We are interesting, lively people. I promise we don't just sit around and talk about yarn. Oh no, wait.
Yeah, we do.
Wait, it's the opposite. The opposite of that. And it's interesting because like I have what is considered by many people a very wild, as you know, yarn buying situation. I only buy in sweater lots.
Mm.
So for me, I mean, while I am a small torsoed human being, I have limbs going in every direction. They disappear off camera no matter what I do. So, like, I frequently actually struggle when I go even to a, yarn festival or something to buy yarn because a
Yeah.
lot of the times I look at stuff and, they'll have 2 to 3 skeins in one colorway There's never enough DK for me to make a garment, which is just a tragic reality, which is why I turned to commercially dyed yarns. But like, I am, by many yarn stores' estimations, a nightmare customer, because I march in and I'm like, yes, I will take all 12 balls of that. And they're like, oh no, that was like a year's supply of that yarn. I was like, nuh-uh. And my yarn stashing habit is especially strange. So I, a long time ago, ended up with a roll of the industrial Ziplocs, you know, the 50 centimeter by 50 centimeter ones.
Which are so difficult. Hey, Kip.
Hi, Kip.
Dog board by Kip.
Dog visit.
We see they're so hard to get in this country, those big Ziplocs, like almost impossible.
I know.
I have to admit, I went into, I think it was one of the home places in this when I was over in February, and they had like the big thing that was that big, and it had like 50 of those bags. If I didn't have knew that I was already overweight, I would have bought one of those suckers and brought them home.
I don't have a mug, but can I get a copy as well? The historical thing for me here is what I tend to do, and here's a trip down neurotic memory lane for everyone. So I buy sweater quantities of yarn that fit into these bags. I put them in the Ziplocs. I go through my Ravelry queue. I find the pattern I want. I print it. I take the pattern, I put it into the bag, I zip it shut, I label it on the outside with the amount of yarn, color of yarn, where it was purchased, and what it's for. And then I promptly put it into a 60-liter bin and never knit it. So, you know, the good news is one day, because I might already be stable or stash acquisition beyond life expectancy, someone is going to have a really good time of opening the 8 bins and finding all of these neurotically laid out projects to make.
Deb, yes. If he doesn't ever pay his rent, we'll just grab those and sell those out as kits online.
Yeah.
He's already done the work for us. All we need to do is price and put them out.
I've already kitted up all the yarn, so you're all set to go.
Oh dear. Now, Mary is asking, what is the wrap that you're wearing and what is the wool? Okay, so I'm going to undo this for you, Mary. This is, it is called Brickless by Martina Beam. Yes, we all know I'm a Martina fangirl. So this is another Martina. And it's actually just, I like this one because it's quite a smaller, it's one of the smaller projects that I've done from her. So it's actually smaller than Hitchhiker. And if you have a look at it, it's a mixture. It's made up of sort of these bricks, and actually start at this end because it's lighter and it'll be easier to see. So you have a lace section, you have a garter stitch section, and then you have a ribbed section there. And it's basically made up of those 3 building blocks with her toothed increase, decrease sort of at one end, and her increase every end at the other. So, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's a really pleasant thing to, all her stuff is pleasant to knit. I've never not knit anything of hers that I don't like. But what I like about this one is that because it is in the building blocks and the bricks, as you knit things along, you know, you can knit the lace section, which goes fast, and then you knit the garter stitch. And just as you're getting sick of one, you can move on to the next one. The yarn, however, Mary, is actually hand spun that I've done. So yeah, and in fact, there's a weenie story around this. So this hand spun is when we were playing around, the wonderful Ian Kelly, who I'm still very determined to get on here, and I think now that we're all back at work, I'll be able to sort of catch him at a weak moment and be able to get him into the shop one day and do it there, I think. Ian is always tinkering. I mean, he is literally, I mean, they talk about a man having a shed. Well, Ian has this whole mill, which is a whole load of sheds, and he never stops thinking. He is a natural inventor. He is just, I mean, the guy's a savant. He's just brilliant. And he's always thinking of different ways to do different things. And he was playing around with our dye print machine. He was wanting to do what they call stock dyeing, and stock dyeing is where you, instead of we do a lot of yarn dyeing, so we dye yarns once they've been spun. Stock dyeing is where you actually dye the fibre before it is spun, and we do a little bit of stock dyeing, particularly for yarns that we do for wrap yarns. We do some stock dyeing.
Yes.
So anyway, he was wanting to get sort of an ombre type effect, with stock dyed yarns, and he was basically playing around, and this was some fibre that he had played around with, and he and it was at work, and then he sort of came to me with a sort of bag of fibre, and he's like, and just sort of kind of thrust it at me. And I was like, what's this? And he's like, experiment. What would you like me to do with it? Don't know. So I hand spun it. And it's it's got a really wonderful sort of almost kind of a mothery, pearly, opalescent-y look. But what I love about it is that, of course, whenever I'm wearing these neutral tones or these pinks and stuff, it goes with everything. So.
And Martina's patterns are really fabulous for hand spun, especially if any of you are fractal pliers, as in you ply in a fractal manner to get that luscious kind of effect like you see in some commercially, what I would call semi-commercially produced yarn, I guess is a fair way to target, like Spin Cycle and stuff like that is semi-commercially produced.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, but
it is weird.
I have always found that Martina's patterns are, I call them skein tamers. So if you have those wild skeins that you're really struggling to use, lots of time people will tell you, oh, break it up in a pattern with lots of neutral. Oh, do this. Oh, do that. But if you just want to use one skein end to end, Jana Kalilo is another great one. Her work, and she does very small shawls that use a lot of yarn overs to make them larger, where Martina does ones, it's so easy to customize.
Yeah.
You can use up everything, but it also lets you take a more wild skein and turn it into something that really
Hitchhiker was famous for that. Hitchhiker was completely famous for that. But this one here is perfect, because this one, I mean, I've gone and done this obviously in a sort of a double knit weight, but if you had that single crazy 100-gram unicorny skein of 4-ply sitting at home, and it was all crazy printed or hand dyed or splatter dyed or whatever it is, and you don't know what to do with it, this is the perfect single skein project that's easy to knit. It's very, very easy to wear. And
it's not socks, because I think that's the other thing people tend to do with those, like, let's all be honest here, we've all bought a skein of speckle dyed 80/20 yarn, and then you get home, you put it on a shelf, and it sits there for 4 years because you can't be bothered to make socks.
I never knit socks with mine, ever.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
I introduced the charge. I'm admitting to it. So if you want something that's not socks, those smaller wraps that are really intelligently built, those are the ones to go for. Yeah. Because, and I mean, some people will never get tired of them, but I personally always worry that I am going to get tired of an all over speckled garment. It's just, a lot of things, and I mean, I was a big person when the speckles first started happening, where I said it was going to be a flash in the pan. I should be honest about this right now. Like 6 years ago, when they really started coming out, I was like, it'll be gone next week. Everyone, I was wrong. And you might want to record this because I don't say that very often.
You can blame Stephen for that, though.
Well, we can blame him for a lot of things.
Yeah.
We'll have to have a chat with him one day and just
we will.
Us, him, and a bottle of absinthe, I'm assuming. You had to come up with that eyeball shawl somehow.
He does live in Amsterdam.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Right. So, but you need a way to use them up. Like, I'm a big believer, I've been saying it throughout this time, knit with the good stuff. Like, if you've got those, like, quote unquote special skeins in your stash, and you end up investing a lot of emotion into them. I think I'm guilty of this. I know we've all been guilty of having those things that we don't want to, like, ever use, because What if I'm not a good enough knitter yet? What if the project I'm going to make isn't special enough? What if, I can never get it again? Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. If it's going to make you happy, knit with it now.
Yeah.
Get it out. Knit with it. And if you need help putting it with stuff, hello, that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
2 people who can get you through.
Absolutely. And it's not being afraid. And as you said, Martina's a great fangirl for it because she's got a number of patterns that use often small amounts. So if you've got a little bit of even hand-dyed yarn left, you've got things like Lefty, and there's another one with stripes, which I can't remember, that she does that you can use stuff up in. Now, someone asked me, am I carrying both colours up in the cowl that I'm knitting? The answer to that is yes. And then you can see them on the inside there.
Love it.
The really beautiful thing about a cowl like this, where the colours are so intensely crazy, is that if I don't remember to pick them up and carry them when I need to necessarily, like an extra in between, it doesn't matter because it's so crazy in the back that we can't go there. You've got a fan, Scott says you're cute.
Oh, thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
My parents worked really hard on these jeans.
Hey Shan, how are you? Knitting. So Shan was on the Can cruise with us, which was awesome, and we stopped at Skeinz. We did a special opening on the Sunday at Skeinz, and the lovely Alice came from Bleating Art. Yeah, because I had Mama Bleating Art also on the cruise as well. I had Denise, and she's saying that she bought a colourway called Great Balls of Fire, because Shan is a huge classic rock and roll fan. So
cool.
It was like placing a bet at the races for you, wasn't it, Shan? You had to get the yarn with a really fantastic name. Very good, very good. Brickless, thank you. Let me I better get that brickless out because people will want to have a look at that. Let me do that. Now, have you got anything else to chat about, my friend?
I don't think so. There will be possibly some sort of call for testing for the jumper I'm working on coming out soon. If anyone has a stash of DK weight yarn at home, or if you're looking for a reason to buy some DK weight yarn, keep your eyes out for that. I will hopefully actually publish a new pattern next week if I ever get around to opening up the good old InDesign long enough to type it in. We've all been there, folks. Adobe is not your friend.
No, and I still haven't sent you my notes to type up the cowl either. But I've only been saying it for the past 8 weeks. I'll get there.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty good. Look,
yeah.
We all got through this without eating each other, and that's the best we can hope for.
True. And don't panic. Ethan isn't going anywhere, in the sense that we are going to be keeping up with our chats. We're going to look at doing them once a month on a Thursday. And I mean, it'll be Thursday or possibly Wednesdays later on down the track. I've just got to see what this brand new world looks like in terms of my work life. Considering, at the moment I've said Mondays and Thursdays because those are the days that I'm at the store, but I'm actually thinking that I might move my store days to Monday, Wednesdays, and then I can bring Thursdays back to here because it's much easier to control in this environment than it is for me to try and attempt to control in the insanity of the environment that is the Skeinz shop. And for any of those who have shopped, I know, Deb will tell you, it can get a bit crazy bonkers there on any given day of the week that we're open. So once we get our routine sorted out when we're going to do that, we will make sure that you guys get plenty of notice so you can join us for that. And remember, now that a lot of us are back at work and you can't always join us because you're working, these are available on YouTube. So I do place them up onto YouTube and you can catch up at your own leisure. What other information did I have for everybody? I think we've got Claire, bless her, made sure she got all those Outlaw yarns loaded up. So as I said earlier, if you missed it earlier, they are now all loaded. So we've got full stock Bohemia Sport, all the bandits, Baby Bandit, Little Bandit. So do pop over.
It's time to knit.
Yeah, and I'm
way too excited.
And I will be back on Monday. So I will join you from the shop on Monday, and hopefully I will have some new stuff to show you. Oh, look at that cup. I wonder where that may have come from.
What? Where could it have come from?
I wonder where that
I have no idea.
Ooh.
Our helpful coffee assistant brought it to me in this exact mug for this purpose.
Yes, product placement.
Yeah.
Product Yeah, I know. I think that's, I'm going to have to console myself at Can this year. I do still have a little bit of Can merch left from last year. I think that's what I'm going to have to. I might have to put the merch up on the Can website or even the Skeinz website and just console myself with Can merch for the year. But that's okay. That's all right. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what I did want to plug out. If you are on Facebook, because if you're watching now, you are on Facebook, do make sure that you go over and check out the Woolfest 2020 traders page, which has been
yes.
group over there. So do make sure, if you've not joined that group, do go and join that group, because that is the group where all of us who were going to be at Woolfest, which was supposed to be this coming weekend, that's where we all are. So if there are things that you're wanting to check out and you can no longer go, obviously, because events are still not able to be run, do make sure you join that group and you'll be able to hunt all of us out, because we will be there.
Yeah.
So that's
and
really
all of our fiber friends. And you
all
can
of our
really
fiber
hug them.
Yeah. So do make sure you go and do that. And until then, I will see everybody here again on Monday. I will be at the shop, so let's let's hope that I'm able to do it relatively uninterrupted. At least I know I won't get dog bombed. So until then, take care, everybody. I will see you all. I'm just going to drop this young man down here. I will see you. When will I see you guys? Monday. Yeah. Until then, have a really good weekend.
You can catch me on Fridays on the Outlaw Yarn YouTube channel.
Is there any breakfast bourbons tomorrow?
There is the ultimate Sunday morning, ultimate meaning last, everyone, breakfast bourbon tomorrow. And we are going to announce some changes to that, into a little bit of when you can visit with us. Oh, and you can always catch up with us, anybody who is knitting anything, on Wednesday nights from 7 till 9 now on the Zoom for pizza and knitting night, because I make pizzas on Wednesdays and all of you should try it. It's fun.
Awesome. All right, on that note, we will leave you everyone to their weekends. Have a great weekend, and I will see you again Monday. And Deb and Ethan will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Yep. Bye.